So hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I pray all is well. Today is a little different because as promised, I wanted to provide you guys with information that I know I was looking for when I first got started here. Couple things. I want you guys to know that this is mainly for beginners. Of course, if you've been a signing agent for a while, this is probably not the video for you. But I know when I first started, everybody kept talking about these documents. There were a few videos out there, but I just feel as though they kind of rushed through it, or they didn't really do a good job explaining everything. And so the other thing is, I do recommend that you take a course. You absolutely need to take a course just so you can get as many gems as possible. And so the course that I actually took, she did provide like a brief synopsis of the main documents, but even with the PDF that was inserted into the actual course, it doesn't go, detail by detail where to sign, what to look for, and all of that good stuff. And the thing is, in hindsight, that would be a lot of work. So I completely understand why it's not a part of the course, but that's why I'm making this course today to help you guys out with this information. Again, I want to reiterate, this is what has worked for me tremendously. Of course, I've had a few errors. I'm not perfect, but I've also had a lot of success doing what I have been doing. You guys want to remember that these documents are things that you're going to learn as you go. Okay. Every single signing is going to get better and better. As I always say, there's like 10 main documents that is going to be in just about every refinance package, which is what we're actually reviewing today. And so before we get started here, I just want to provide information because I know, again, that a lot of people who are going to be looking at this video, it's maybe your first time even interacting with anything signing agent or just loan documents in general. So if you have specific questions regarding a loan signing agent, I have an entire playlist about that, so you can get all of that information on my channel. I've also posted a few videos recently just describing what you do. It's called What's a Loan Signing Agent A to Z, and it basically details when you actually get the confirmation all the way up until when you drop the documents off. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of start in the middle here. So you physically have arrived at your appointment. You have already printed off your documents whatsoever. What I was instructed to do, and this is common sense, I guess you would say, is you want to give the borrower a call as soon as you arrive to the appointment. Simply let them know that you are outside. And so this is the tricky part here. Unfortunately, it's a lot of things, especially with COVID. So some things, everybody's not going to have a nice long table where you can kind of just lay everything out. I have literally done signings in those lawn chairs that you use at cookouts, sitting in like a small little room and just flipping it over one at a time. You work with what you have, but I want to be very transparent. Every signing is not going to be ideal. Every signing is not going to be perfect. But moving forward, you get so you arrive, you call the borrower, you're physically inside. And so what I usually do is I'll just say simply like, okay, do you have your driver's license and or passport? I'm just going to go ahead and start recording this information so that we can proceed with the signing. So even though you've already texted and called them and, let them know like, hey, we're going to need photo ID. We're going to be signing in this ink. This amount is due at closing, et cetera, et cetera. It's a good chance that they're going to forget some of those things because they're just already so busy. All righty. So the next thing I do is, so I've already recorded all of that information. We have our blue pens. I have my table kind of spread out how I need it to be arranged. And so that's the other thing. How you set up your signing agent table, people ask this question all the time. It's literally going to be up to you. If you're left-handed, you're going to do things one way. If you're right-handed, you're going to do things another way. The way I set everything up for my first signing is definitely not how I set it up for my signings now. So as I always say, guys, you just want to learn from every single signing. If you find that this works better than this makes this more efficient, do whatever works best for you. So of course, I always tell, so like I'm talking to the borrowers, I want you guys to sign your name exactly how you see it. Your everyday signature is perfectly fine. And then I also just remind them of the date. And so I'll say, today is March 3rd of 21. So you can do 3/3/21. And I will remind you guys throughout the signing as well. Lastly, And so the two other things that I will say, I explain my role as a notary. So I like to remind them that I am an impartial witness. I don't work specifically for the lender and or title company. So if any of the numbers are wrong, if any of the information is incorrect, I will have no problem stopping this signing, in which we will try to give both the title company and or lender a phone call so that we can receive some type of clarification. Stopping there, I want to be very, very transparent. There is a great chance that they are not going to answer. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but realistically, these signings take place. Some of them take place during the day. It just depends on what's going on, but a lot of them take place after 6 p.m. And so the title companies, banks, credit unions, whomever, most of these places are closed. But I do like to put that little disclaimer in there, because you have to remember, it's not your job to make sure it closes, because if certain things aren't in order, you're not supposed to proceed. So example, if the driver's license is expired and they don't have the proof required for your state, because with COVID going on, there's like special restrictions. If that is not appropriate, you're not supposed to proceed with the signing. I've also had instances where numbers on the closing disclosure, as we're going to talk about later, are incorrect, as well as the Alta statement. And there's multiple times where, the borrower just does not feel comfortable whatsoever. So I have literally had to just, stop the signing. And, we try to call the title company lender, no response whatsoever. Nothing I can do about it. I just say, no problem at all. I will give them a call first thing in the morning. I also tell them to try and reach out to whatever representative that they have been speaking with, and then we'll just kind of go from there. The next point I want to hit on, as I said, is basically just how you set up your table at the actual signing. I will probably do another video on it, but like I said, you want to find your own system. To give you guys some ideas, I put the borrower's copy, in front of them so that they can see, but I don't really give it to them, only because, if you give it to them, they'll take it out, open it, and try and go through all 100 and something pages, and that's not good time management. But I will have it so that when I'm referencing back to it, as I do multiple times throughout the signing, they'll know that it's there. The other thing is I try to set up an assembly line. So I have had signings with, up to like 4 different signers. So what you want to do is, create literally an assembly line. So if you're all around the table, you just want to make sure that it's in a certain order, and then have your documents stacked to where the last one should put it, if that makes sense. So as I said, I'll have the borrower's copy. I will have my copy right there. And then what I'll do is I'll have my journal pretty close as well, because as I'm going through the affidavits and the mortgage, I will just write everything out as I go. The next thing, so we're going to go over all of this, but 2 of the most important documents are the closing disclosure and the Alta statement. These are truly important because they have all the significant numbers: loan amount, interest rate, blase, blase, blase. As I said in my previous video, when I'm prepping these documents, I usually pull out both the I pull out both the closing disclosure and the Alta statement and put them on top of the entire loan package. And so somebody asked me, I don't recall the exact question, but I'm not telling you guys what to do, because we all receive different training. We all go through different experiences, but based on what I have seen, okay, I've had the opportunity to actually work, of course, well, not of course, but I have been getting work directly from title companies. And what you will find out is, since they are so swamped, there are often times where they will ask you simply to, do some administrative tasks for them, scan things back to the lender, and different things around the office. In my tenure of doing that, every now and then for different title companies, so I'll say I just completed a signing. I bring everything back to the title office. I have a pack of, notarized documents. So the lender sends documents to the title company. The title company then includes, their affidavits, if funds are due, all of that good stuff into the packet. And that's why there's so many pages. So after the signing is completed, whether I'm shipping the documents back or, I have scanned documents directly back to the lender as well, what happens is you have to separate everything, right? So yes, you may get the PDF in a certain stack, and I believe Mark Wills has a video about this. He talks about how to package documents specifically for the title company, because essentially it just makes their job easier. Okay. I don't go all the way there because, you know, I'm not getting paid for all of that, but pulling out the CD and the alter statement is something that helps the title company, but it also helps me as well. Because if any of that information is wrong, the most 9 times out of 10, they're not going to want to sign, unless it's like $100 difference in like cash to close or whatever the case may be. If they're off by thousands, the borrower is not going to want to sign. So it's something you just want to validate in the beginning so that you know if you should even be proceeding with the signing. But as I said, when I was working in the title company, what I had to do was you separate, you know, the documents that go specifically to the lender, you separate the ones that go specifically to the title company, and then I even had to do it by letter in legal. Again, I'm not saying that this is what you need to do to be successful, because I don't go to that extent. But pulling out the CD and alter statement on top, what I've been told from a closer who has been closing for 18 years and working for multiple title companies, is that putting that CD and alter statement on the top is what helps whomever is pulling that file when they get it back from UPS and or FedEx to automatically recognize the file, know who the borrower is, and it just makes the process so much easier. And so we all know that there's the notary police and the signing agent police as well. I have literally done that the past 2 months and I have not received one complaint. I've actually received multiple calls I work for at least 3 to 4 title companies now. They absolutely love when you do that. Even with the signing services, I have not received any flack whatsoever. Again, this is what I do. I'm not telling you to do it, but I do like to give you guys, you know, the little gems, because I don't know, I feel like these are things that separate yourself. Like, they know when they call Safiya Martin and she completes the signing, it's going to be super efficient. Everything's going to be organized. There's not going to be errors, etc., etc. And so the last thing that I want to discuss, because I don't think that I actually included it in this refinance package, because I had to go through and like cross everything out to make sure that there's no important information. So there are something called riders that occasionally will be in refinance packages. And so as you guys know, I used to work for State Farm, where I sold car, homeowners, and life insurance, all of that good stuff. So that's where I actually heard of riders. It's spelled RIDER. So the mnemonic that I remember is essentially somebody riding the back of a horse, okay? Riders are simply just add-ons to whatever you're doing. So, you know, for insurance, if you have a life insurance policy, there's multiple riders that you can add on to the policy. So you can get, it's like long-term care, disability, work, steady. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it's essentially just things that you can add on to whatever you're doing. And it's the same thing with you know, these real estate loan documents. So there's something, it's called like a 1-4 family rider, and that is a rider seen whenever it is an investment property. Something else that you will commonly see is like a condominium rider. So, you know, if somebody's living in a condo, or even maybe just, you know, a certain area, like a community or something like that, there will be certain, not restrictions, but like rules and regulations. All right, so we already covered, you know, that part of things. Now we're going to talk about the actual loan documents. I'm going to do my best to try to remember to talk to you guys how I'm talking to the borrower, because I know that's what I was looking for in the beginning. I'm also going to tell you guys where you need to sign, what you don't need to sign, and what information is more relevant versus others, okay? Really quick, I know I just said I'm going to start. Something I want to cover. So the last video I talked about how to efficiently prep documents. When you're actually explaining the documents, okay, there are times where, you know, like I said in my last video, you'll have 23 consecutive pages where no signature will be required. It'll say like master closing instructions. It's things that are specifically for the lender and or the title company, things that have nothing to do with you, okay? There's no reason to explain what those documents are. that is where I reiterate, I have a whole package for you guys. There's a 3-day cancellation period. So if for whatever reason after this closing here today, you read something that you do not agree with whatsoever, you do have 3 days. The instructions are right here. You sign, date, and return. Boom. But there's no reason to explain every single document. That's not what you're there for. Remember, you are a signing agent. You are telling people where to sign and telling them what they are signing. If there's no signature required on that piece of paper, there's no reason to discuss it right then and there. Okay. And the other thing is, if they do have questions, like, they want a synopsis of every single one, even afterwards, they can simply call the title company and or lender and get all the clarification that they need. Alrighty, so as I said, this is a refinance package. Usually the first page will either be the FedEx/UPS label and or the notary instructions. Of course, I don't have the FedEx label here because, it has sensitive information on it. But I actually have 2 sets of notary instructions, okay? Really, really simple, but the thing is, as a signing agent, okay, remember, we're not just a notary public, we're signing agents. It is very imperative to follow details and follow instructions, okay? So things that we always need to be looking for is what color ink are we signing in? Are there scan backs? Are funds due at closing? Okay. So let's just we'll kind of go through this together. I've worked with them a couple of times. So remember, please read carefully and initial all sections. So first and foremost, we need to make sure that we have our initials for everything. Here, this is one rare one. But this is similar to exactly what I was just talking about. So sometimes they will tell you what documents they want on top of the entire package. So all the affidavits from the title company, if there is a quick claim deed and transfer forms, if applicable. I usually see that in sellers packages, the mortgage and or deed of trust, along with any riders, as I just talked about. The remember, horseback rider, we're riding on. So these are additional things. The note, and then the CD or the closing disclosure. Next, this is truly, truly important. Making sure that the entire package is printed on the correct paper. So if X amount is supposed to be on legal, the other is supposed to be on letter, you need to make sure that that happens. And then also the borrower needs to receive a blank copy of all documents. Next, we already talked about this. All documents must be signed as the name appears on the document signature lines and dated. And with when we went from 2020 to 2021, that was a whole thing. I had to keep reminding myself. And then also on February 22nd of 2021, that was a lot because it was like 2/22/21. So as soon as you give somebody the paper and they sign, I usually take a quick glance at it just to make sure that they are doing it correctly. Other things. So, I mean, you guys can read here, but like, this is something else that's important that I was just saying. The closing disclosure and the alter statement, of course, they both need to be signed. If funds are due at closing, or if funds are to be sent to the borrower, there is usually something to fill out. We're going to go over this as well. The U.S. Patriot Act form. This is another important one. I don't know if I have it. I hope I put it in here. But this is another important one. So the U.S. Patriot Act form, it will either ask for one form of ID. So the primary form is always going to be a photo ID. It has to have a photo and a signature along with the expiration date. So like your passport and or driver's license. Occasionally, depending on the lender and or title company, they're also going to ask for a secondary form of ID as well, which can be, insurance, property taxes, W-9s, W-2s, excuse me, pay stubs, things like that. And it tells you everything. It's going to say primary, secondary, and then it will say like only one form of ID is required for this closing, or it'll say, 2 forms. It tells you everything. It's just up to you to read. Okay. Here, super, super important. Remember, we are here to tell them where to sign and provide a brief synopsis. You should not be discussing funding and disbursement with the signer. You shouldn't be talking about, you know, sometimes they'll say like, you know, interest rates are really super low, and you can just have generic conversation. But if they ask you, what do you think about my interest rate? Do you think I'm getting the best one? Why is this? All of that, that is not for you to discuss. You can simply state, I would be more than happy to give the title company and or lender a call. When I say that is my go-to, like that is my go-to. And then finally, okay, once documents are completed, please return within 24 hours, 1 day. You're really supposed to do it, you know, immediately after. But we all know if you have a signing at 8 o'clock at night and FedEx is closed, that's impossible. We all know if you have multiple signings throughout the day, you know, you may not be able to do it until the next day. But just try not to just try not to surpass that 1 day time period. But there are instances, like let's say if you sign on like a Saturday and you have to send scanbacks that need approval, you may not get that approval until Saturday evening or Sunday morning. So then realistically you can't send them back until Monday. And then the other thing is, child, in February we had 3 snowstorms, and I don't play with that stuff. Okay, so I didn't even bother going out in that mess. I went when it was safe. Alrighty, so that was first one. Next we have, so printer settings. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I cannot emphasize the importance of making sure that your documents are printed correctly. I have I have multiple videos on my YouTube channel. You have absolutely no excuse. I don't have a dual tray. I still have a single tray printer because we all know that, you know, they're like super hard to find right now. You can use you can use Page Sorter on notaryrotary.com and go write about your business. The other thing I will say is, I'm not sure, like I see this often, but I personally cannot follow these instructions because it didn't work right with my printer settings. So just because they have, you know, these instructions, you want to try that to see if it works. But if you're printing documents and pages are cut off or it's not fitting how it's supposed to, you need to play with your printer and or computer to figure out what you need to do. And that's something else. If you're new, you haven't received your first signing yet, or you're just thinking about getting into the business, I cannot stress the importance of learning your printing settings before things get crazy. It just saves you so much headache in the future. And then, as I said, I believe it's this one. I literally have, I know them by heart now, but I literally have printer settings that I put on my printer. So just in case, I already know what I need to do. All right, so finally, let's go ahead and get into you know, these loan documents here. Okay, so as I said, the closing disclosure and the alter statement are 2 of the most important ones. Speak to you how I'm speaking to the borrower. Well, no, let me backtrack here, because these are things that sometimes they will ask you, and it just, I don't know. To have an exceptional signing, it looks better when you know more information. Of course, that comes with practice, but what I say is every single signing, you want to be learning something different. Alrighty, so at the top here, these are not things that I go over, but just in case people ask you, I just want you to know where it is. Okay, so you have estimated, I don't know what I want to say proposal value, but it just essentially means appraisal. This is the appraisal amount right here. Over here, it gives you the loan information. So this is a 30-year refinance. The interest rate is going to be at a fixed rate. So that means the interest rate stays the same throughout the entire loan. And then finally, this is going to be a conventional loan. Again, these are things that you do not need to explain to the borrower, but I just like you to know where these things are. So speaking to the borrower, and that's the other thing, I'm usually pointing upside down, but you get used to this as you go. So we have our loan amount right here, our interest rate right here, and then right here is our monthly principal and interest. Breaking down these numbers, okay, we have our monthly principal and interest right here. This is the amount that goes into your escrow account every single month, making this your new monthly payment. And then I usually say, I'm going to stop right here. Does this information look correct? Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they're like, you know, I need to check what the person emailed me. No problem at all. Just another nugget, sometimes they will be paying mortgage insurance. I want to just stop there and educate whoever's watching, because I don't have a house. This is information I had to learn as I go. When you purchase a property, if you do not, so when you purchase a property, you have to put down a down payment. if that down payment is not at least 20% of the total amount of the loan, you will have to pay mortgage insurance, also known as PMI. So good, I asked them, does this number look good? They say yay or nay. If they say yes, we continue to go. Sometimes it depends, because sometimes you'll know if people like are familiar with what's going on, because a lot of people own multiple investment properties. This is like their fifth refinance. This is a breeze. But then you have others who this is their first time. So I try to be a little bit more thorough, and you just honestly read the room based on that. But if I wanted to break down escrow, I simply say both property taxes and homeowners insurance is what is going into this escrow amount every single month. Alrighty. And then down here, we simply have our closing costs. And then next we have the actual cash required to close. Okay, stop there. Two things, either cash, either funds are going to be due from the borrower, or funds are going to be given to the borrower. Okay, it's one or the other. I have seen a $0 amount where it's like a net zero, but more oftentimes than not, okay, either money's going to the borrower or money is going to be taken from the borrower. And we're going to speak in detail about how we know, we know right here, but we're going to speak in detail how we would collect these funds or make sure that they're getting these funds. And so for time purposes, and of course, just, keeping people's information private, I didn't scan the entire document, but know that every closing disclosure is usually 5 to 6 pages, which you'll be able to see here down at the bottom. The only signature required is going to be on the last page or the last 2 pages. Okay. So this is the 5th page. Really simple. Of course, I crossed out the name here, but it will have the borrower's name or it will say borrower. You simply have them sign their name. So I would sign as Jane Doe and then date it for the 3rd. So 3/3/21. Okay. And just kind of remind them of the date as you go, just to cause less error. Alrighty, so moving forward here, as I said, there are often times where either, moving forward, either funds are going to be due at closing or funds are going to actually need to be collected from closing. So this sheet is specifically for when the borrower is going to receive funds. And so these numbers vary from company to company, even with title companies. So if you don't know, just ask. But for this specific one, they're simply stating that anything over $1,000 is going to be sent via wire. I usually also ask for a void check. And then as you guys can see down here, anything less than $250 comes in regular mail. $250 to a little less than $1,000 is just going to be sent overnight. Okay, and so on the flip side of things, if funds are going to be due at closing, it's super simple. It's 3 options. Either they're going to have to write a personal check, a cashier's check, or they're going to have to send a wire. For the personal check, it's usually, of course, a very small amount. A cashier's check, it depends. A cashier's check is when you just go to the bank and you have them write the check out to whomever, and then they give you a hard copy. It usually tells you, again, if you don't know, call the title company or call whomever. And so then finally, whenever they have to send a wire, you simply just provide them with these wire instructions. It has all of the information and exactly what it will need to be said on that wire. I will say there's a lot of wire and loan fraud going on, so people are a little leery about things. Oftentimes people have asked me, well, what do you recommend? I don't really give my recommendations. I just say whichever one you feel most comfortable doing. Okay. This is similar to the other one, just depending on like if if they are receiving funds, it's just like a different version, but it's something that you guys can kind of stop. You guys can read on your own. But oftentimes I have seen this as well. You will have to notarize the disbursement of funds. Good, and you guys should know how to fill that in accordingly. Alrighty, and so I kind of kept this in the order of how I received it to a certain degree. But so whenever you receive refinance packages, I said there's going to be the shipping label, then there is going to be any specific notary instructions. Sometimes they do put notary instructions throughout the entire package as well, which can also be very helpful. After that, we already saw the CD and author statement only because remember I pulled those out and put them on top. But after that, you're usually gonna have, it's either gonna be at the very, very top or at the end. It's gonna be the document specifically from the title company. And these are usually full of multiple affidavits. So it's a lot of stamping, a lot of notarizing. So first one here, we have the account closure letter. So simply when they're closing out that old account, because remember we're refinancing, so we're getting a new loan, getting a new interest rate. So we're closing out that old account. Same thing, they're gonna sign on both lines. Next is your tax indemnity. The other thing to remember, guys, is even if you don't know this stuff by heart, it's super self-explanatory. So right here, the undersigned also understands and agrees that it is our responsibility to pay the above mentioned taxes, that they should become unpaid and delinquent. And all they're doing, did I mark it out? So like property taxes and whatever other taxes they are held responsible for. You're going to sign both of this. No date is required. And then at them, as in the borrower, of course, Jane and John Doe, and then you're going to notarize. Next, we have our obligation of debts. And I am looking, so also super stuff explanatory. So the undersigned, so whoever's signing under, I hate the way they word things sometimes. So the undersigned borrowers fully understand and agree that any and all debts that are liabilities against the above referenced property, which will be up here, including but not limited to all of this stuff, must be paid in full and satisfied. So essentially, they are responsible for any debt in required to this property. I mean, in reference to this property. Keep it super simple, put it in layman terminology. If they want to take the time out to read it for themselves, let them. But you are there to just give a simple, brief synopsis. Good. Same thing, you're going to sign here. You as the notary are responsible for notarizing the bottom. Next. This is one that I have every now and then people will be a little hesitant to sign this. So let me just explain it first. So it's simply the limited power of attorney. And so all it's saying is that if the, this one is specifically for I think this one's for both the title company and the lender. I'm kind of glancing over things right now, but it's essentially giving them limited power of attorney to fix any clerical errors that they discover or make for the actual closing documentation, okay? And you can read all of that right here. Where people get a little hesitant is the limited power of attorney lasts 120 days, which is basically like 6 months, okay? From the closing date, okay? So that's where people are like, that's a very, very long time. We didn't drop this documentation. We don't have any control of that. Honestly, after we drop the documents off, as long as they are notarized correctly, our job is complete. So, people have questions. Why is it 120 days? Why is it so long? What happened, I'll share this story. One time, this lady, she was very upset. She was like, that's a very long time. And I get it, in hindsight, that is 6 months. So we simply called either the title company or the lender. And he didn't know. He literally was like, this is how the document is given to us. That is just like the baseline of days. That's just how it all is. He didn't even have an answer. So again, when people ask you questions, it's okay to say, I don't know. You remind them of your role as a notary. And my favorite line, I would be more than happy to call the title company and or lender to get you some clarification, okay? But that rarely happens. So you would put on today's date, March 3rd, 2021, have both of the borrowers sign here, and you would notarize the bottom. Next, your name affidavits. So this is another one that comes in many shapes, sizes, and forms, but they're all, pretty self-explanatory. You're just confirming that, that is a name that they have went by. You're just confirming that that is a name that they have went by at some point in time. Confirming, that it's spelled correctly. If so, you're going to have them sign directly to the right of it. And then also, if there are any other names that this person has went by, so if they have a maiden name, if they have filed taxes with their middle initial, if they have, I don't know, if on some of their W-2s, it has a different wording, they would need to go ahead and fill in all of those names and then sign to the right. And yes, they do need to sign every single time. That's just how I was taught. And then you're gonna notarize. Next, we have our heirs and emissions compliance agreement. Okay, so this one I kind of like to do with the in conjunction with the limited power of attorney because they kind of bounce off of each other. So this document specifically, let me find it. So right here, basically stating that the undersigned borrower, so whoever is signing, will fully cooperate and adjust for any clerical errors, that may have happened. All clerical errors is, sometimes when they're printing out so much paperwork that they may forget to include one detail, or like maybe on the closing disclosure it's off by like $100 or whatever the case may be. So this one is just stating that the undersigned will fully cooperate if there are any errors, and then the limited power of attorney is giving them limited, so a limited amount of time in 120 days power of attorney to go ahead and fix those errors on their behalf. Dated this 3rd day of March 2021, have them sign there. And then of course you're going to notarize. Next, owner's affidavit. I don't go too into detail about this because it's like super detailed. Okay, every single one is different, so I simply state that owner's affidavit as it sounds. You guys are confirming, or you're confirming, that you are the sole owner of this property. If you could go ahead and indicate your marital status right there for me, and then you're going to sign on this 2nd page, and then you notarize. This is one, if you would like to, say more, you totally can. But remember, they have copies of all of this. I'm just here to kind of give you a brief synopsis, sign, and go about our business. And then there's another one, I didn't put it on here. So it's your borrower's affidavit. It's simply stating, again, you're the sole owners of this property there, and that there's no unrecorded deeds or liens. And then you always remind them, like, I do have a copy here for you so that you can review everything in detail. If anything is incorrect, remember you do have that 3-day cancellation period. Alrighty, so your note, okay? Your note, I don't go too into detail because a lot of these things we have already discussed, but I'll say, this is your note. Things that we have already discussed is your loan amount right here, your interest rate right here. And then I'll say what's new and important is your first payment is going to be due April 1st of 2021, and your last payment is going to be due March 1st of 2041. And I have seen that sometimes with the mask on, people don't hear me when I say last. They're like, wait, you just said April 1st. And I'm like, no, your very, very last payment is going to be due March 1st of 2041. Okay. Awesome. And then finally, your borrower's right to prepay. It's no penalties whatsoever for paying early. Okay. And then they are going to sign, okay, on this last page. No date is necessary. And then usually, well, no, I was wrong. So they also need to initial. So initial all 3 pages, and then they're going to sign. Next. Okay, just talked about this. So next we have our mortgage. This is another common one. Okay, this one does need initials as well. So speaking to the borrower, I say that, this is your mortgage. This is the security document that is actually going to be recorded for you guys. If, 2 of them are married, I say, since you guys are married, so both of your names is on the mortgage, because oftentimes either there'll be co-borrowers or there'll be one primary borrower and a signing spouse. But in certain states, I believe it is, I don't think it's a universal rule. If they're married, so like in Pennsylvania, if they're married, both of their names are going to be on that mortgage. So, security document, the mortgage can be anywhere from, because I've seen like short-term mortgages, that mortgage can be anywhere from 8 pages all the way to like 23. 9 times out of 10, initials are not required, as I said before, but when they are, you just want to make very close detail to it and make sure every single page is initialed. When there's no initials, there's only one signature required on the like 2nd to last page, okay? But for this one, I usually just give them the entire stack, and I have them just go one at a time, initialing every single one. If there's 2 borrowers, you just have them initial right next to each other. So as we see here, this is 1 of 22. This is the last, so 2nd to last. So this is 21 of 22. So I forgot to write Jane and John Doe, but their names are always going to be right here. So they're going to sign and date. That's the other thing. When you see seal, that does not mean you put your stamp. I don't know why it says seal, honestly, maybe because like the document needs to be notarized and requires a seal, but this doesn't mean you need to put a seal right next to it. You simply sign and date. You notarize, fill out all of this information, put your stamp, and then this one needs to be initialed as well. All usually whenever they ask for initials, all however many pages are going to require initials. So don't forget to do this last one where they sign and initial at the bottom. And then I did not include it. I don't know what happened to it. And so just I don't know where it is. Just write this down for your notes. So as seen, this is page 21 of 22. Page the very last page usually says like certificate of residence, and it'll say like on the signature line, it'll say like agent of mortgagee. Don't quote me on that, but I know it's definitely some wording, and I believe it needs to be notarized as well. This is not for you. This is for somebody else to fill out. You are only responsible for having them sign, initial every single page, including that one I just mentioned, and then you notarizing this right here. Next, we have our borrower certificate and authorization. So just brief synopsis here. This is just stating that you applied for this loan, and when you did, everything was true. You're going to have them sign, date, and put their social number. Nope, that's already filled in, I think. But if it's blank, then you have them fill it in. So sign, date, put your social in. Demographic information addendum, exactly how it sounds. It's just like an informational sheet. So, you know, asking about their ethnicity, race, and all of that good stuff. What mistake I did make, well, it's not really a mistake. I don't think it matters. But down here, I also have the borrower's name. And so since this is a bold line, in the beginning, I thought that a signature was going to be required. Nothing is needed, okay? So this one is just, it's an informational sheet. You can skip right past it. Next, this is, okay, so the 3-day cancellation period that I was telling you guys about. Let me make sure. Okay, awesome. So this is simply the notice of right to cancel. Every loan has a 3-day cancellation period, not including Sundays and or federal holidays. That quote unquote calendar, not including, I should say, Sundays and federal holidays, it's called a rescission calendar. I hope I said that right. It's like RESCESSION, a rescission calendar. So it'll have let me read this. Like it'll have the day of the, okay, so the date of the transaction, which is up here. So say for example, it took place today, March 3rd of 2021, 456. The cancellation date would be March 6th of 2021. What they say is you want to double check to make sure that this date is correct. I haven't had anywhere they have been incorrect, but you always want to look just to be sure because this is super important, okay? Talking to you guys how I'm talking to the borrower. You guys have a 3-day cancellation period. So that means you have until midnight of March 6, 2021 to cancel this loan. If for whatever reason you do go through this packet pointing to the one that I have for them, if for whatever reason you do go through this packet, you find any information that is incorrect, you simply want to follow these instructions, sign here, and then you will return accordingly. For today, we're only going to sign and date the very bottom just to acknowledge receipt of this document, okay? These are now lender documents. We started with the note, but I forgot to mention that. So this one's super simple, occupancy statement. Simply stating that this is your primary residence and or your second home or investment property. Next, we already went over errors and omissions, so just agreeing to fully cooperate if any clerical errors are made. The reason why it's so redundant, so it's oftentimes you're going to see 2 errors and omissions and 2 limited power of attorneys. It's because one is going to be for the title company and then one is going to be for the lender, okay? So that's why you have to do it twice, unfortunately. But same thing, sign, date, notarize. So next we have our W-9, really simple. We've all seen it before. It's just stating that any information regarding your mortgage could be sent to you and or the IRS. You're simply going to sign here. Sometimes it's dated, sometimes it's not. So you want to make sure you go ahead and get that taken care of. So next we have our COVID affidavit. Newer, of course, with the pandemic going on, but super, super simple. Just affirming that, you know, with COVID going on, you still have the ability to pay for the mortgage, okay? Sometimes it's one pages, sometimes it's two, it varies. This specific one, this is just what I learned. So whenever it is a refinance, whoever signed the borrowers and or co-borrowers is going to be the buyers, not the sellers. If there are co-borrowers, I usually just include another signature line and then have them print to the right. I have not had any problems with that whatsoever. All right, so this is another affidavit of occupancy, simply stating that whatever's checked off. So for this specific one, we are just affirming that this is your primary residence and that this is a refinance, okay? Sometimes these two will be checked off depending on what's going on, but you just want to confirm this information. You would have them sign and date. Next, we have our flood hazard determination. So just stating if you are in a flood zone, you will have to obtain flood insurance. Same thing, you're going to have them sign and then date. 4506C, so simply just your request for tax returns. This is one that is commonly messed up, okay? So at the very, very bottom, what I usually tell them is first things first, very important, make sure you check that box. Once you check that box, you're going to sign and then date to the right for me. If, because oftentimes people do file together, their spouse's name will be on the tax return as well. So their spouse will have to sign, print their name below, and then date here to the right. So we have, so I did include it. Good, good, good. So the U.S. Patriot Act. This is the one from earlier that is just used to confirm people's identity. Oftentimes you will see both primary and secondary. This one only includes primary. So for this one, since they only need primary, as I said, it's usually like a driver's license, a passport, military card, ID card, or any of these down below. Sign date. But the thing is, they don't sign this. So this is for us. So we're certifying their ID through whatever form they just gave us. So you would simply sign your name right here, dated 3/3/21. Print your name, and then this is the one where the signing agent police come out. When it says title, some people are like, you know, you put notary public because you're notary public first. Some people say to put signing agent because you're acting as a signing agent in this role. I put notary public / signing agent, and I have not received any negative feedback whatsoever. It's been perfectly fine. So follow what's in your course, do what you think is correct. Things like this kind of remind me of like stocks. If you talk to 5 different brokers, they're all going to say something different. What one person thought was genius, somebody else is going to say that absolutely sucks. Do what works for you, just make sure that it's legal. And then lastly, this is like my bonus little nugget of how you can just be more efficient. Oftentimes title companies, are going to include some type of informational sheet. And as you can see here, they're stating that it can expedite the order and also protect them. So the only thing is it does require like a lot of information. Like sometimes this can take like anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes because people have to go back to their prior residences, occupations, and so on and so on. So what I'll do is I will take my little sticky notes and I will stick it directly on the on this page. So like if it's in the middle, I'll stick it directly on this page so that once we have got through signing the entire package, I can simply pull out this one, have them fill it out, and while they're filling out, I am triple checking my entire package to make sure that I didn't miss any signatures. So that way you're not just sitting there waiting, because that's time that's going by, and we know that time is money. Okay. And so that's it for the majority of the documents. We went over just about every single document that you're going to see most commonly in a refinance. Okay, I hope that this video was helpful. I will continue to, create content to put out there what I was looking for when I first started. If you guys have any requests, like if you want to see a buyer sellers, I can definitely work on that one next, because it does take a little while for me to cross everything out, make sure that there's no sensitive information in this video. That's something I would definitely work on. As always, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, turn your post notifications on so that you do not miss any of my videos. Bye, guys.